and welcome to the Gear Talk. Today we're going to have a pretty cool guest, Mike, aka Bloke on the Rage.
Good
Welcome.
to be here. Thank you.
So, how do you feel after Finnish Brutality 2023?
I don't hurt as much as I did the day after, but it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. The pain, it was good pain,
Nice.
and the sauna cured a lot of it.
Yeah, it tend to do so. Yeah. You had a pretty interesting loadout in LARP mode.
Yep.
Tell us the backstory and how did we end up here?
Okay, so without going on too much of a tangent, the first time I was here in 2019, I shot a bit of a LARP with the introduction of the L1A1 SLR using Eric's. So wearing wool battle dress, I mean proper full retard, 37 pattern gear, and that was an awful lot of fun. So I thought what I would do now is do sort of towards the other end of the SLR's frontline service life. So I did a late 70s, early 80s sort of Falklands era get up, but with enough weight to be in armoured, even though there's no armour.
Yeah.
So we've gone full Brit Bong,
Yeah.
and I went with the facial hair as well. I just needed to set it off.
Yeah, I think the mustache itself was kind of enough for conquer the world. I think you should get them back. It was.
And my kids don't agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so what we are looking, what was the kind of the setup for the match, and how did you kind of build it up?
Yeah, so from the clothes perspective, it's 1968 pattern DPM, which was the only thing on issue, frontline troops at the time, which are these, and they're double lined. Well, they're fully lined, like all the way down and all the way to the ankles. And on Sunday, it was kind of 25 degrees and a little bit warm. I managed to get some new old stock original boots.
Yeah.
Boots, DMS, and I wore puttees for the sheer class, just to really set it off.
Yeah.
To pair with that, we've got a slightly sort of alley setup of a 58 pattern webbing equipment, and initially I wanted to do it sort of as standard as possible. But the problem with the large kidney pouches that are standard on the back, and they're kind of the equivalent of the butt pack on Les's American stuff, is that they take up too much room on the belt. So, because I needed room for the holster, I needed to find a solution where I had more room, because we don't want well, you can't have your ammo pouches here because then your holster's there and the angle of the holster's wrong and it's a risk for breaking the 180 on drawing. So everything had to be back around so that I could have the holster there. So I went for what is a legit setup from the era, non-standard setup, and this is often done by people in the jungle. So there's no, I didn't need the bum roll, the poncho carrier to make weight. I didn't need a helmet to make weight. So what I went for was, as far as the rifle's concerned, the standard ammo pouches. I've got 3 58 pattern water bottle pouches, a 44 pattern water bottle pouch, which was a very alley item that people was very sought after, because it's very easy to get at this, and it's got a metal mug, so you can put that directly on a heat source. And then, so that was full of water. These two were full of water. This had my compulsory items in it. I haven't brought them today, but I had an OG right angle 2D cell torch of the era, a 1973 dated first field dressing as for the medical requirements, and some other stuff. Pistol holster. I went for the 58 pattern, which is good for crawling around in the dust, because there was no need to place an empty mag in it or anything, because it fully covers. Drawing from it is tolerable. Reholstering on the clock it cost me time, because it's a
flap and,
one flap,
and
two flap, another flap, another flap, and then a tab, and the OG spare magazine carriage is inside this holster, so forget it. And there was no separate pistol ammo pouches issued, so I bought some cheap craptastic Chinese ones to not be too good.
Yeah.
For the knife, we have a bayonet.
Yeah.
As it should be. And then some elastic to stop it bouncing around too much.
Yeah.
But that made, with all the ammo, and I had it in a mixture of 20 and 30 round magazines, 12 kilos at the start signal was no problem.
Yeah.
With the 90 rounds.
Yeah. So the setup, like except some of the pistol pouches, this is something which could have been used in late 70s,
yeah,
early 80s.
Absolutely, yeah. Aside from, I mean, double arming wasn't really a thing. I mean, there are photos, just kind of based this off photos of a young para officer who had a Browning and a rifle on it, but it would be unusual.
Yeah.
Highly unusual setup by that point. So I think by that point it was like majors and above had a right to a pistol, and only specialists.
Yeah. How did the setup work? Was there any kind of challenges, or were there certain areas where this excelled in the match?
At no point did it excel. I've run matches in the past with a modern setup. Like the last 2 years, I was wearing PC-18.
Yeah.
My PC-18. It was hot. This was hot, and I was literally just wearing a string vest under it. And there's no dump pouch on this, so I was doing the OG dump pouch down the front. When I knew I was going to have a reload, what I could do is I could have a 30 round mag pre-prepared sticking out the corner, and that was fine. I put elastics on here so that if I did have to open it, the pouch will flip closed automatically enough that the mags aren't going to be scattered all over Loppy.
Yeah.
That the one time I did have to unexpectedly reload, that made it difficult, and I was going for a 20 round mag, and they're way down the bottom of these things. That was a challenge. Reholstering was a challenge, and it took me 2 attempts.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to drop a pistol and get DQ'd.
No.
Compared to a pistol belt and a plate carrier, 12 kilos feels much heavier like this. Because, I mean, I've got slightly girly hips, and I can get a lot of the weight on the hips and some of the weight on my shoulders. I sort of had it balanced. But the weight is all at the same level.
Yeah.
And it's further out from your body. Because when you've got like more than half of the 12 kilos in plates with an elastic cummerbund,
it's really close.
Yeah, and it's high and it's close, and then a lot of the rest is on your hips, on your pistol belt. It's much easier to turn.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel anywhere near as heavy as 12 kilos in this does, and the weight on the shoulders was a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that.
That's an interesting kind of point you make, like that even though you get the distribution of weight on the hips and you have the good shoulder straps and everything, but still like it's not as evenly distributed as in a plate carrier. But you did fairly well compared to like you shot with the ancient gear and not that handy rifle. I think the spinners were no problem.
The spinner, the rifle spinner was no problem. The pistol spinner with the Browning high power was more of a problem, but I did get it over. First time ever.
Yeah.
But you're more conscious of the weight. And Les has the Brits always were amazed by the American butt packs because they stick out a long way. And even with the kidney pouches, the kidney pouches are no deeper than this, and it does keep it up against your back and not too far out. So I mean, this is pre-modern gear. It's a lot less floppy than the American M56. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just cultural bias, but I think this is a better set. It's less floppy.
Yeah.
The American stuff always struck me as the way it attached. Like all the pouches could flop around.
Yeah.
And the Brits had the tendency to use bungees.
Yeah.
As soon as bungees became a thing, they were like tighten it all down.
Yeah, the bungee cord, like kind of compressing, either it's a belt kit or the backpack or some other thingy where you want to minimize the movement. It's a good tool. Also, you need to be aware that you don't create the snack hazard.
Yeah.
Like it has the pros and cons, but that is pretty common setup what you see in the belt kits, like compress it. Yeah, awesome. You said that you have shot the matches in modern gear. You're doing the LARP stuff, so you have lots of match experience of the different setups and gears. Do you have any kind of lessons learned or some insights what the people considering doing either full retard LARP gear or going with the modern gear for brutality type matches or some other matches like SRA, that what people should consider?
I mean, for the modern gear, I think the modern setups are now pretty well established. Pistol belt with all your pistol ammo and 1 or 2 rifle mags, plate carrier with the remainder of your TST ammo. The advantage of that setup is that you can just lose the plate carrier and be high speed, low drag.
Yeah.
So you can have the same gear. You just put the plate carrier on or not. And I have my water on the plate carrier as you have yours on your belt. So it's literally, I use the same rig for IPSC.
Yeah.
I just don't wear the plate carrier.
Yeah.
I think the other advice is don't try and go over make the weight.
Yeah.
If you want to be competitive, I mean, you were carrying the gear, and then we weighed it at like 18 kilos, and I was slightly disappointed it wasn't 30.
It was I for my defense, there was one empty water bottle and one empty magazine, so
okay.
I was already consumed some, but yeah, I'm ashamed of that.
Yeah, I mean, with the LARP, there's always a question of how original you make it. I mean, I couldn't make this fully original simply because there weren't the bits like that, but I tried to be as genuine as I could on the rest.
I think it's kind of going quite far that you have 1973 bandages and the actual torch, so
overcompensating.
Yeah, that we give it like free pass for the Chinese.
It was the optic. I was overcompensating using a modern optic.
Yeah.
But it's gonna suck. I was wearing braces and I've got Compeed stuck all over my body because these buttons, they end up, these trousers go up to here because it was the style of the time, and ends up under that belt with all the tension on it, and it was just, they were just rubbing.
Yeah.
And I did as best I could to pad them out. Pad out the one that was worse, and then just like Compeeds when I started getting hot spots. But don't compromise safety.
Yeah.
So I mean, part of the reason for going for the sort of alley non-standard jungle setup here was safety, so that I didn't end up with the pistol there. I don't want the ammo pouches too far forward because Loppi is either moon dust or mud. And these are sort of gusseted, but if you start crawling around in the mud and it comes off the side there, you're just going to be scooping moon dust or mud into your mags.
Yeah.
And in this old gear, you want the ammunition up, the open under the mags up. Not for anything ergonomic, but in case you were to throw your webbing off a truck or something. If it's rounds down, you've got the full weight of everything landing on the ground and the risk of trashing your magazines. So yeah, don't compromise safety. Try and keep the non-standard things in the spirit of it. I think I'd have felt bad putting some high-speed low drag things there, so I chose some pretty trash AliExpress pouches, which I thought were appropriate, and have fun with it. Have fun with it.
Yeah, that's a major thing. I think you brought up the important point that even though you would use some crazy gear, like either it's a historical or a sci-fi or whatever, the safety needs to be there, that you don't get DQ'd, and more important, you don't hurt yourself or anyone else. And then I think it's awesome that people are doing crazy stuff in the matches and kind of bringing out the old gear where there's a lot to learn from old gear as well.
Yeah.
For its applications, and everything is kind of built on top of the history. So understanding how these work gives a more insight how our current gear is working.
Exactly. It's all part of a process. And for the brick gear enthusiast, there's Khaki Web, and explains all sorts of things in minute detail about all the various British patterns. But this is where we came from.
Yeah.
And when this came out, this was revolutionary.
Yeah.
And now we're at something completely different with the plate carriers and the shooter's belts. And what's come in between is fascinating. And if I ever do get an L85, I think I'm going to have to do a sort of mid-90s setup sometime. And just like the next generation above this is just so much better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Any closing thoughts or advice for the audience?
If you can come to a match like this, come. It's fantastic. Whether it's LARP, whether it's modern, I keep going back and forth because it's all interesting. It's all fascinating. And just, have a great time. And thank you so much for organising an awesome match and for your incredible hospitality.
Thank you. Always. Okay, that was a Gear Talk this time. Until next time.